Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, students.
So, hope they won't. It is Great Day to Be Alive. Please focus. It is the 22nd of January 2016. Learning objectives today as we go back. Why are you still talking if we were beginning class? What are you doing? Are you crazy? So, thank you. Explain how propaganda and the story are related. We will review that. And our new objective today, which will be based on the definitions which you were doing as your bell ringer, describe the story that controlled ancient Egypt. It will be very closely related to these concepts of chaos and order. We will get back to that in a minute. We're going to review. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Gregorio, what is the story? Our essential question is, who controls the story? How do they do it? So what are we saying, the story? What is this?
What do you believe about the past and the present?
What do you believe about the past and the present? Very good. Why is it that people would probably want to control the story? Pass it to someone to be help you.
Because, like, maybe they want to the product, like, for example, cigarettes, or maybe, like, they know the fact in the next month.
So they get past that. What are they really wanting then?
They want to know, they want money to build things.
And money gives you?
Power.
There you go. Good. Thank you. Let's see who we go to. Oh, Sada. So, why would people want to control the story?
Because they want
Power, people! Thank you. So, if the story is what you believe about the past and the present, and someone can control what you can believe, they can control what you think, and therefore what you do. Good. So, some examples that we saw. First, think about the environmental issues. Someone brought up the cigarettes, right? We were saying that cigarette companies used to actually try to convince people that smoking is not bad for you. What are some of the environmental issues taking place that deal with the story and what's being told? Okay.
I think that the environmental issues are the global warming,
Okay, global warming is the major issue. Okay.
Antarctica melting,
The ice caps are melting. Antarctica specifically has started to melt. The new evidence shows. Okay.
and
But what are we talking about controlling the story? What's happening?
people are starting to believe the things that companies are saying.
So, okay, what type of companies are we talking about and what are they saying? I'll pass the ball on and we'll let someone else get that. So, there are companies that are saying things about global warming. What type of companies and what are they saying? I'm going to go here first and I'll come back to you in a second. Yes, ma'am?
generally companies that work with coal or with fossil. I don't know.
Yeah, fossil fuels in general. Okay. All right, good. And so, they are the ones who are trying to control this story and what are they saying, young sir?
They are saying that they continue doing this because global warming is not real.
Global warming is not real. Don't worry about the fact that 95% of scientists in every country in the world agree that it is real and that it's caused by human activity, but don't believe that. Just keep doing what you've been doing before. I like it like that. Now, I think there's a bigger lesson to be learned here. This is what I'm trying to get you to listen. This is what I'm trying to get you to see when I ask you that essential question: who controls the story and how they do it? Do you realize that we are talking about, in a worst-case scenario, we could literally be looking at the extinction of our species, and yet there are companies who want to convince you that it's not even real. They themselves know the danger. This is the definition of insanity. I'm going to chop your arm off, but I'm not actually doing it. Don't worry. This is not real. This is not happening. Okay? All right. So, yesterday, you had class yesterday, yeah?
Yes.
We were talking about some of the stories of Colombia and maybe who is controlling them. Sorry, love.
We did the quiz.
So, okay, 2 days ago then. Let's start with this. What is the old story of Colombia? If we go back 30 years, what's the story that's been told? I want to mix it up and try to get some other people. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
That like Colombia is bad and full of terrorism, and that you're gonna get kidnapped, and that there's a lot of drugs, and that
Okay, good. Was that a true story?
it was.
Yes, okay, thank you. Before I get to the new story, how did that story get around the world? How did that get into the mind of all these people who now see Colombia as a terrifying place? Yes?
like the news.
Okay, good.
Stories.
News only shows what, usually?
Propaganda.
Right. They don't always show the bad things, but it's very common, especially about other countries. Raise your hand. Tell me the last time that you saw something good in Colombia about the country of Venezuela on the news. Never.
Yesterday.
What did you see? Okay, there you go.
I know.
Yeah.
There was a propaganda, like a commercial, and they said, like, this is the only line I'm going to make to change Venezuela and to make it better. And they were like a book.
Okay.
And they were like really happy and so
Sure. Yeah, I'm trying to find basic examples that you can relate to. The idea is that just like other countries have usually only shown the bad things about Colombia, it's very common even in Colombia that you show negative things about other countries. It depends on, who is controlling the story. All right, new question, okay? What is the new story of Colombia that is trying to take place? There's like this information war taking place, and we can see government propaganda versus old propaganda. Okay, I haven't heard from you today. Yes, ma'am.
That Colombia is a beautiful place, full of nature, different kind of species, whatever it's called.
Right.
And another thing that I saw yesterday in the news is that in Washington, Magia Salvaje was presenting.
Really?
Really?
Okay, so I still haven't seen the movie. How many of y'all have seen
It's
that?
really cool. Yeah.
So-
I don't like it, but it's
All right, this is the perfect example of what we're talking about controlling the story. The whole point of the movie is Colombia is such a special place with such immense biodiversity, and I think the overall message is if you are not careful, you're going to destroy it. Right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, there's a
What is it?
To come to Colombia to research.
Sure. But let's think about tourism. Like, tourism could actually, if the country does it in the right way, tourism could be a good thing for Colombia as long as it's done in an ecological way, right? Because when you think of Colombia, other than coffee and tourism, what is the economy based on?
Oranges.
Beyond that,
like mine.
mining. What does mining do to you? It destroys your rivers. You have to cut down the forest first to get to it, and the amount of pollution that comes from it is incredible, much less the environmental destruction. Don't forget, as we talk about water, the Wayuu in La Guajira are dying from a lack of water because their water is being used by a coal mine.
Or what?
A coal mine that is not even a Colombian coal mine, it's from a different country. Does this not sound terrible to you?
Yes.
But when you turn on your TV, is that the issue that you see? No, you're worried about Venezuela. Look at how bad Venezuela is. Don't worry about the fact that we are selling your country to outside corporations. That is incredible. Wake up, people. Yes, yes, sir.
That I know something that they're trying to do, like Venezuela that the Colombians are fighting, so Leopoldo Lopez gets out of jail because he didn't do nothing, he just wanted to be president and
Okay, good. So, did you have a comment or a question?
It's a comment for you.
Okay, and then I've got one final question I want to ask, but I'll get to you. Yes, ma'am?
That it's about Venezuela and everything.
One second. You guys ready? Okay, go ahead.
That like in Venezuela, they're in the news, like it was a long time ago, but it said that like Maduro or the president is taking everyone from Colombia out of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And that from the
Border.
The border
Yeah.
is being closed, but that's like something the president's doing or something like that.
Basically what it was, okay, this can tie into our discussion of who controls the story. Basically Maduro said that the Colombians who were living in Venezuela were traficantes. And, well, some of them probably were. Yeah, I mean, let's be realistic. But that doesn't mean that they all were. And I think beyond that, here's what I want to use. His country was about to enter a revolution, Maduro, right? Venezuela. They were about to fight. So if you're about to fight me, what would be a very smart thing to do? Distract you. Don't think about me. Think about these bad Colombians that are in the country. We got to take care of these Colombians. You see what I'm saying? Now, maybe your country does the same thing. Don't think about the Wayuu. You love those bags that they make, but you don't want to know that they're dying daily because they don't have water. And you don't want to know that the reason they're dying daily is because we sold their water to a coal company that's a foreign company. Instead, think about Venezuela and how bad they are. You understand what I'm saying? We are constantly, there's a war for our opinion. And if we don't come together and start to focus on the issues that are most important to all of us together, which should be most likely this environmental crisis that we're facing, then we're going to be in big trouble. All right, to kind of wrap this up, we said that there were two old stories about Colombia. One story was Colombia, you're going to get kidnapped or shot, and there's drugs everywhere. The new story is, it is an incredibly amazing place with more biodiversity. El riesgo es que te quieres quedar. Which of those stories is the true story? They are both true.
It's a mix.
It is a mix, exactly. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. They're both propaganda. One is negative propaganda, one is positive propaganda, but the truth is somewhere in the middle. And Colombia is not all bad. It is a wonderful, beautiful place, but at the same time, there's also other things that take place that we can't ignore, right? Just like in every country, exactly. All right, any final comments, questions, concerns? I'm very impressed. I feel like you have a good grasp on this. Yes?
What do you think controls the story in Colombia?
Well, the reason I'm going to be careful about what I think is because at the end of this unit, when you turn in your project, you have to have your own hypothesis about who controls the story, what are they saying, and how do they control it. So if I tell you, it will influence. But we can look at examples in other countries, and it would probably point you in the right direction of Colombia also, because it's not very different in most countries. Yes, ma'am?
For the end of the unit, do we have to have a perspective of who controls like the story in the world or only Colombia?
I'll let you make that choice, but you should, if you do say the world, it should relate to Colombia also, okay? Yeah. Yes.
But so can you choose Colombia and the other countries?
Sure. But what you should be doing when you do that is saying these are examples of how the story is controlled within the world. Okay? Yes?
For example, do you know what from who is the story controlled in the ISIS?
In ISIS?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't done much research about ISIS, so I don't know. What would you say?
I think it's like their God because, or the people who tell that there's a real God.
Yeah. And don't forget, like, if we took ISIS as an example, Islam itself is a story, right? Just like Christianity is a story, all religions are telling a story. If you were to look at the heart of all of those stories, you would probably see that most of them are pretty similar. Like most religions, as far as I have done my research, when you look at them, they're basically saying, hey, you should be good to other people. ISIS is an extreme example. I mean, there's over 1 billion Muslims on the planet. There's only a few thousand members of ISIS, and they're extremely radical. But, you know, don't forget, in our own, if you're Catholic, in your own Christian history, there have been terrible, horrible things that have happened throughout Christian history in the name of Christianity or in the name of Catholicism. So we see this happen from time to time, but it's a good example of, do you know what the Crusades are?
Yes.
The Crusades?
Yeah.
That would be one example. Probably, since you're
It's like they're saying
right.
The Crusades that Nasrid told us.
Yeah, and if we were to look at an example that you might be able to relate to as being from Spanish descent, there was this very famous, like, we'll call it like an institution of torture.
What?
And it was called the Inquisition. And if they heard that you were doing things that you shouldn't be doing, or maybe you were accused of being a witch or something like that, they would torture you until you confessed. And you might be innocent. Let me give you another example from the American colonies in the United States. Here's how they check. Sometimes this is on record, right? I'm not saying this happened everywhere, but it did happen. If we thought that Elena was a witch, for example, there's only one way to be sure that she's not a witch. We have to tie her to a rock and throw her in the water. If she floats, she is obviously a witch, and we have to kill her.
But
if she drowns,
She's not a witch.
she wasn't a witch, and I hope you go to heaven. Pretty logical, no? Or there was one other way. We could tie her to a stake and then set her on fire. If she doesn't burn, she's obviously a witch. We have to cut her head off. If she does burn, I hope you go to heaven. Good. So,
she's still gonna die even if she's not a witch.
right, you're going to die either way. Be sure you said your prayers.
But why did they believe they were witches? Like, there's no witches over here.